Go ahead, Dale.
We were in the Okinawa campaign then. That was next to the last campaign in the Pacific. The last one was against Japan itself. And it was a rough one. We didn't realize at the time, we didn't know, but the Japanese had amassed between the southern part of Okinawa and Japan itself, they had amassed about 1,000 planes with men to fly them with the idea of sinking the whole American fleet.
Oh,
Well, they didn't realize what we had.
That we had the bomb ready to go.
Yeah, we beat them up pretty bad, and finally Okinawa fell, of course. They knew that we were going to invade someplace there, and when they kind of realized it was Okinawa, they said that's why Okinawa was a pretty rough one, because they had all of these planes, and I can remember on our radar, we could watch and see the blips that were coming in, and sometimes there'd be 110, 15 at a time. So, and they didn't realize we had a new shell that we were using. It wasn't like the old ones. The old ones, you had to hit the target.
Mm-hmm.
This one had a little radio in the nose, and it sent out radio waves, and when it got to the subject, it exploded, sending the rash shrapnel toward the thing the object it was supposed to hit.
Wow.
And that's why it became it was terrible for the Japanese. They just couldn't get going at all. But they did hit several of our carriers. I don't remember exactly which ones. I was around at least 5 or 6 of our carriers when they were on fire or hit by something. And anyway, that was the end of the war. We went into Sagami Bay, August the 27th of 45. We were there 2 days. And after those 2 days, we took aboard my former governor, Harold Stassen. He had been placed by President Truman had put him in charge of the liberation of prisoners of war in Japan. So we, on the morning of the 27th, I think it was, we went up to Tokyo Bay. We went all alone, and Harold was aboard, and we went up to Tokyo Bay and into Tokyo Bay. We were the first American warship to anchor in Tokyo Bay in World War II. We dropped anchor, and from then on, it was liberating prisoners of war. And we liberated 3 camps around the Tokyo Bay area. And then we liberated camps at Sendai and Kamashi, Hamamatsu, Yokosuka. We liberated over 7,500 Allied prisoners of war from the camps in Japan. And before we left there, on the 14th of November that year, we had liberated over 7,500. So I got to see both sides of the war, fighting and so forth, and then what was left afterwards. And I was just saying that I've been a Christian all my life, I guess, and I carried my little New Testament here in my shirt pocket through the whole war, and also a card that I got from my grandmother, who lived with us all of my growing up years. And she couldn't speak English, she didn't know English at all. And she's on this penny postcard, which I still have, she wrote in Swedish, "Befall Herren din väg och förtrösta i honom." Follow the Lord and trust in Him.
amen.
Well, all of these things have had a way of shaping my life so that I eventually was ordained as a pastor in the Lutheran Church, and I was pastor for 50 some years, I guess. And then I was chaplain of the Good Samaritan in the Lake Country Manor in Devil's Lake for 16 years. So after I retired, I didn't die. I'm still here, and I love to help people as much as I can with their faith, because that's what I've got. That's what I have left now. I could handle the churches anymore and congregations. So my whole life now is to try and get people to understand what the difference is between life and death, war and peace. All of these things I've had the pleasure of finding out for myself. And I can tell you right here and now, there's nothing like living with the Lord day after day after day after day. Yeah. And for that, He wants me around, I guess. So now I've celebrated my 98th birthday the last time. And I suppose I'll celebrate another one or two, who knows? But that's up to the Lord.
So you were 18 years old when you were in?
17 when I went in. Wow. Yeah. And I left from home. My hometown was Warren, Minnesota. That's where I grew up. And I left there as a 17-year-old. I've completed my sophomore year of high school. Then I was off to war. That's 17. I had missed almost a whole year of school when I was a kid. I had ear trouble. I had pneumonia in both lungs, and I had infection in both my ears. Two of my buddies from when we were kids, both of them died, and I lived. Oh. And who knows? Anyway, that's about part of my life, anyway. Yeah. So you know.
Thanks for sharing. Yes,
Dale, thank you.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you so much. Yes. I was scooting by back to my office, and I'm supposed to be in Grand Forks at 10, but I saw your hat, and I thought, I'm going back to talk to this guy.
Because of this cap, I've met all kinds of. Now I'm going to fight World War II guys anymore. There's no. So now I meet their grandchildren. Yeah. Oh Lord! And even the grandchildren like to talk and get into ideas about from that time. But let me tell you something real interesting. This got to be 12, 14 years ago now, maybe. My wife and I were in Devil's Lake, and we went in to have a cup of coffee in this.
Sure.
Can't remember the name of the place. I should. I forget so much now. But when we came through the door, I saw there was a man looking out the big window on the west side of the building. And as I came in, I looked at him, and he happened to turn his head and looked right straight at me. And I knew he was Japanese. I could tell it right away. So we got our coffee and sat down. All of a sudden, here he's standing right next to me. And he asked me, were you in Pearl Harbor on December the 7th of 45? I said, no, I wasn't. I hadn't gone in yet. Well, he says, I was there. And
as an American or a Japanese?
He was Japanese.
But he was there as a Japanese soldier.
Huh?
He was there as a Japanese soldier?
No.
But he was an American soldier at Pearl.
He was just a civilian. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Much else. Okay. And he just told me that I was there. He says, my dad had bought a place, a lot of land up there, and he told me the directions from the base there. And he says, my Japanese planes flew right over our heads. I was just a boy at the time, he said. So I got to see that bombing of Pearl Harbor from the start to the finish. Oh. And some of the Japanese planes went right over my head, he said. That's the only person I've ever met that was at Pearl Harbor on December the 7th. I've never met a person from our country that was there. Here I met this Japanese. It's interesting.
Wow.
I had quite a visit with him.
Well, thank you for your service. I mean, every one of us is just so this is...
Well, thank you, and thank you for the work that you do. You're just wonderful people.
These guys are rock stars. I mean, they are.
Oh, and then some.
I've been here 10 years as of last week. This is one of the best moments I've had in my 10 years here.
Wonderful. Good.
Meeting with you.
Good.
Are you having surgery today? Or are you
No, my wife is having a shoulder.
Okay.
Shoulder.
Are you hungry? We have leftover donuts.
Yeah, bring him some food in here. Bring him some. Yes.
The drinks are on the bottom, I think.
Dale, my pleasure meeting you,
My
sir.
pleasure
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
Yes, and we'll see you again.
Okay.
Yes.